What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Road to Redemption podcast. I'm, as always, your host, Cam Williamson. It's great to be here. It's always great to be here with you. If you guys can see, we got a little new setup going on. As always, I think I've said that in every episode, that the setup changes. I'm still in my normal spot. I don't know if you can see all my mood settings and whatnot. We got a new mic. Got some incredible guests that we'll be bringing on the show here soon, but we have to talk about everything that's been going on. You guys have been amazing. Everyone that listens, all the old listeners, from day one of the Road to Redemption podcast, all the way down, up to and including all the new people that are jumping on board. A lot of you are jumping in because of the TikTok video that has gone insane. I think it's over like 130,000 views now, of me just saying that I had 5 years sober and I fucked it up and I was back at day one. Hundreds of thousands of people just saying, hey man, it's not day one. You had 5 good years, you just took 1 day off, you're right back on it. We talked about that, but we didn't talk about the fact that I didn't just drink once, I drank twice. I drank on a Tuesday, and then a whole week's worth of crap happened that we're going to get into. And then I drank again on Saturday. When I drank on Saturday, it was intentional. I knew what I was doing. I chose to do it. And I'm going to let you guys in on some of that thought process. I want to help you as much as I can. And I know that a lot of people listen to this show because you either think you might struggle with some addiction, maybe somewhere along the line, codependency has been a thing. I'm not going to be able to put that in a place where I can see it, and it's driving me nuts, clearly. Codependency, addiction, stuff like that. You're here because you think that you might be struggling in one of those regards. Let's start from the beginning. So Tuesday, 2 weeks ago, not this last Tuesday, I was in a pretty bad spot mentally. I had let myself start to feel like I was almost being hunted by my past. I felt that there was this one individual who just would not leave my brain. And everything that we had gone through, everything that was said, not said, up to and including losing a child together. So it was a romantic relationship, one that I don't and have never talked about. We were together for a long time, 10 to 12 years. I mean, from the time we were kids, about 10 to 12 years old, until we were about 18, got our first place together. It was our first apartment. Ended up pregnant and broke up at the very beginning of the pregnancy, and I was told for years that she had it aborted because she didn't want to be with me, and everything leading up to that would warrant that to be true. I caught her kissing her ex and all these things. Ended the relationship. So we went from living together a very long time to one day it was over. And on that day, it's very important to note, when everything ended and everything blew up, I jumped in the car after drinking like a bottle of Wild Turkey and a 12-pack. Jump in the car, fill up my tank, right? At the time, I drove a 1992 Buick LeSabre. It was gold, white wall tires. Thing's beautiful. Jumped in the car, filled up my tank, and I was like, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going to get the fuck out of here. I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm out. I don't want to see any of this. And I just drove, man. I drove until not only did I not recognize anything, I drove until I didn't even recognize the way anything sounded. I haven't heard of any of these places. The people don't look like the people look where I'm from, and they don't sound the same as where I'm from. That's what I wanted. I wanted nobody knows Cam here. And I pulled up to the dirtiest, shittiest, grimiest hotel, probably all I could afford at the time. And I drank my ass off. Just say, fuck all this. That's the last time that her and I speak ever. Well, not ever. So life happens for like another year, and there's no closure. There's no anything. My life just falls apart with drugs and alcohol that you guys have heard plenty of times. And then I get in such a bad spot that I have to join the military. I have to join the army to essentially save my life. Before I leave for basic, I called her and I said, hey, this is what I've got to do. This is where my life is. But I would still prefer for us to do this together. If we could just see each other one more time, we could figure it out. So we made a plan to meet in my high school parking lot. This was back when I was 18. She just said, Cam, too much has happened. It's over. It's done. But maybe when you get back, maybe we could figure it out. Just left the option open. So I figured I'd go to basic, write her letters, get my shit together, come home, and we would be together. Well, halfway through basic, I get a Dear John letter, essentially from her cousin, saying she moved in with somebody else and wanted nothing left to do with me. Typical of the past, so sure, I moved on. That's when I met my first wife, somewhere between 6 to 9 months after the Dear John letter, and was married about a year after. You guys have heard plenty about that relationship, but I never moved on from the last one. So that one was doomed from the start. I carried all the old wounds of step-parenting and old relationships not healed and brought all that with me. So it was doomed to repeat itself, and throughout that marriage, I called girl number one, as she'll be known from here on out. Called her quite a few times. Anytime I would drink and couldn't drown her out, the memories of everything that happened, when I couldn't drown it out anymore, it would, I'd call her. She never changed her number, or I'd find her on social or something. And usually she would ignore me. Whatever was going on was usually better. And so then we didn't talk. Didn't attempt anything, didn't try to contact her, I just gave up. Well, on this last Tuesday that I drank, I reached out on Facebook. I noticed I wasn't blocked anymore, and I just reached out and said, look, everything that happened, it really hurt me, and I've been damaged over it for the last 11 years. We never got closure, and I resent you for that. I resent you a lot for the way that my life turned out, because it wasn't supposed to. It was supposed to be different in my eyes. And I drank that day to try to forget that I said that, or that I felt that way, or whatever. And I ended up in the ER. A lot of you guys know that. So I go to the ER. It's a pretty harmless stent. Like 24, not even 24 hours, couple hours, go, get some fluids in me, I'm fine. At this point, I'm not saying anything to anyone. I'm just talking about a relapse, but I'm not telling people what's eating me inside. I told my wife, how I felt with the situation about my past, and that I was struggling with certain feelings about that. And I was honest. I had to be honest. I said, I've lived with this pain and this resentment and this what if for too long. And I said, I need to contact this person. I need to call them and talk to them. And I did. And we talked for a little bit, and a lot of stuff was said about how I was always good enough and I wasn't the problem, and it wasn't you, it's me, and all this stuff. Talked about the baby, how she didn't get it aborted, how it was the stress of the situation. And then we talked about what life, looks like now, and 10 years down the road, what that looks like. came to a place, like everybody does, where you go, I don't know. I don't know what the next 10 years looks like, but, and this is my words, I don't want it to look like this anymore. Where every so many years, I call you and I blow your spot up over something that I can't get over. Because I can't let it go that my life went different than I had originally intended it to. When you have an idea, guys, of your life and the way you think it should go and the way you had envisioned it in your head all this time or whatever, I can promise you life doesn't care about that. It doesn't care at all about that. Life only cares about the decisions you make actively. What did you do? What did you say? Who did you kiss? Who did you talk to? What you'll find, and I want to talk about closure because that was what all this was about, was trying to find some closure in a situation that never got any. I want to say first off, guys, sometimes closure is just not possible. It's not something that should happen or even can happen. Sometimes there's nothing to say about a past situation. Some things are just unfortunate, and to even open that line back up, we talk a lot about energies and portals of energies moving back and forth, good and bad. Sometimes when you open those portals of yourself up for examination, i.e. your past, and you start giving attention to those things, that's when you can start to feel like you're being haunted by it, because then it doesn't leave you. You've given attention to it, so now when you sleep, it shows up. And everything you look at, it starts to show up. It's like when you talk about, you buy a new car, you buy a blue Ford Escape, and now you see blue Ford Escapes everywhere. It's like, well, were they always everywhere, or are you just thinking about it more? So when you give your attention to that, guys, I promise you, the more emotion and the more passion that you have behind your thoughts, the more likely they are to manifest themselves in your reality. So if you're sitting around thinking about people, things of your past, they're gonna keep coming back up. They will present themselves again in your life. That's a fact. So you have to be very careful, whether it's tarot card reading stuff that people do, or meditations, affirmations, law of attractions, prayers. Be careful what you ask for. Be careful what messages and what signals you're sending out to the universe, because revisiting a time in your life, while you may not be able to time travel, you can't take your consciousness and everything that you've collected up until this point and go back to that and then redo things with the same hindsight that you have. That, to our knowledge, is not possible. But you can bring things from your past into your present and relive them, which, in my opinion, if your brain is sending on your body all these traumatic signals and responses the same exact way it did 10 years ago, and you're flooded with all these emotions and feelings and things, how are you not traveling back in time? Because I can tell you, mentally, I reverted back to the person I was when I was 18. I thought different. I spoke differently. I wanted differently. So everything happens. Conversations are had. Feelings are shared. And then Saturday comes up. 2 Saturdays ago now. And I said, I can't live like this anymore. I can't keep living feeling like I am forever going to live half a life. So I made a decision. I was an 18-year-old kid when this relationship ended. I was drunk, and I was 18 years old when it ended. So I'm going to go and be a drunk 18-year-old kid again. And I'm going to go to Nashville, and I'm going to drink, and I'm going to mourn the loss of whatever that was and that version of myself, with the drinking and the unresolved issues of abandonment and not being good enough. I'm going to let all that die in Nashville. And that's where I start sending out texts to people saying things like, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to live. This sucks. Go and drink. And again, talking to girl number one and telling her, hey, I thought that this was the way my life was supposed to work. You're saying you feel the same and saying that you still do. I can't help you with that. But what I can do is just say, like I do for every person in my life, which is, and this is not by my own doing. So this is the only closure sometimes you can have, which is, I'm always going to be the person that I am. Always. And I've been that way since I was born. Unapologetically me in a lot of ways. One of those ways is I will always take care of people that I care about. It doesn't matter if we haven't talked in 10, 15 years. I got people, they know. They could call me. They may not have my number, but if you can get me on social, you can get to me. That's been proven a lot this last couple of weeks. If you can get to me on social media, apparently you can get to me pretty much anywhere. You can call me, and I'll come fly 100 miles, 100,000 miles if I need to. If you're in a real bad spot and you tell me that there's no other options and I'm your last one, I'll always be there. I mean, I don't have to be your last option. I prefer not to be a lot of the time, because then I have to put out a bunch of fires. But anybody knows they can call me at any point with any problem, no matter what happens, no matter how bad I get treated or how many times I get discarded. And that's something that I will forever suffer, because I'm always going to be there for people who don't deserve it. And I'm always going to feel like protecting people that frankly don't need to be protected. They put themselves in such bad ways in life. You can't help them. But here's what I'll finish with in saying on closure in situations, especially romantic relationships from your past and traumas that happened that live in your memory like a ghost or a skeleton in your closet. Understand that people's actions are closure, right? The way people acted then, the original time, and the way that they act every single day after that, those are all choices. If somebody wants to be a part of your life, if somebody cares about you, if somebody loves you, they don't treat people certain ways. You don't just use people when you're bored and want some attention. Girl number one got cheated on. That's why she took the call. And she's in a rough spot in her marriage. And that's why she took the call originally. And it was because she was bored, not feeling good enough, and wanted attention. And for whatever reason, the universe has synced us back up at that moment to rehash something that it's very clear from what was said that neither one of us had got over or moved on past or really even tried to or had any desire to. But the second I told this person, hey, I can't live this lie anymore. I'm going to tell my wife and everything how I feel and everything that's been going on. I suggest you do the same so that way you can actually accomplish what we started here, which is finding closure and being able to sleep happy at night. And that didn't happen. So we block each other from everything, and I start getting messages from her husband wanting answers. And I give him everything, tell him everything, describe what his house looks like. He wants to know all this shit. And I tell him, look, man, this ain't for you. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this because I genuinely care about this person. I've protected them for a long time from themselves and a lot of other people. That doesn't just stop. You know, they told me about some unhealthy things they were doing to try to manage through life. That really scared me, and I addressed that with their husband and said, I want that to stop immediately. So whatever y'all have to do, figure that shit out. So that way this person doesn't die. But outside of that, I'm done, man. Protecting people, and I'm done being one call away all the time. And I'm done calling every 6 years to see if people that prove day after day that they don't give a fuck, that they still don't. Guys, don't do that to yourself. Let people prove one time they don't give a fuck. Don't keep living in what if Wonderland. It's not real. The problem with Wonderland and stuff, guys, is you got to remember it's not real. There's real, and then there's the Wonderland. You can't let those two cross, right? If the Mad Hatter comes into the real world, it's going to be chaos. Everything falls out of whack. And if you try to bring the real world into your Wonderland up here sometimes, you're going to destroy everything in your real life. I don't apologize for anything. I'd like to, in the famous words of Conor McGregor, I'd like to take this moment to apologize to absolutely fucking nobody. Because for once in my life, I will not apologize for the way I felt, or handled things. I agree. Drinking is not for me. It's not for my future. I don't handle it well. It's something I use as a coping mechanism, and I don't have control over how much I drink. So that is settled. Cam does. I don't drink. That's what it is. But I will not apologize for protecting people or trying to protect people that have very seemingly little interest in protecting themselves. I will not apologize for loving people, even if they don't deserve it. And I will not apologize for being someone who genuinely cares and is willing to put it all on the line and share my feelings and fly hundreds of thousands of miles just, or drive somewhere. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've driven to family members or friends just to go, hey man, I need to put eyes on you and just make sure that you see me in your eyes and I see you in mine. And if I can do that, I can let you know that no matter what else happens, everything's going to be all right. If we could just look at each other, not through a screen, but if I could just look at you, I can let you know it's going to be all right. If I can get to you, and that's one thing that's important. Saturday, after I went drinking, tried to find a hotel after sending some scary messages about not wanting to live like this. Details unimportant. Some calls were made by family members of mine, and I ended up in a 3-day hold for a suicide watch. Now, the way I am, no matter what is going on, you get people home, right? You don't call the authorities or stuff like that. You get them and you bring them home. I get it. Everyone's working in the best interest of what they thought was going on. I am someone that whether I have to drive 8 hours to come get you, I will do everything I can to stay on the phone with you and make sure you're safe until I can get to you. I do not ever want to, in my words, abandon someone to the authorities and possibly put them in a situation like a 3-day psychiatric hold that you can't get them out of. Once the authorities get involved, you can't change some things. You can't change certain holds. You can't, you can't change certain reports. There's just certain things you can't do. And I'm an old school guy in that way. You handle things to the best of your ability. But on Saturday, person number one just left me for dead. And I felt like a lot of other people did too. And I sat in a hospital psych ward for 2 days feeling abandoned and hurt and grateful for the life that I live. But very clear-minded on the fact that sometimes searching for closure is only you trying to kid yourself into you're trying to throw a fucking time bomb into your life. You're trying to self-destruct everything you have because you don't feel like you deserve it. So you go back to the time when you felt the least amount worthy, and you try to feel like that again. And that's called self-destructive behavior, self-sabotage. And that's what I did. So sometimes closure can just be self-sabotage. Don't get it twisted. Also, don't get it twisted. Know how much I love you guys. You mean the world to me. All your messages, comments, support, everything has really been keeping me going. It's not an easy time, but we will get through it, and we're all going to get through it together. I hope you know how much I love you, and we will check you out next week. Love you guys.